All right, it is 101. So we are going to start. For those of you who are early, thank you for being early. So in today's webinar, what we're going to talk about, let me make sure my mic is going. Can you guys hear this? All right, perfect. That's working. Perfect. So what we're going to talk about is how you can close higher in 2023. And this is going to be a really interesting presentation because I'm going to do what's called funnel hacking for you to show you what the largest PI firm in the country is doing. So it should be very, very interesting. All right, so let me go through here. So the goal of this session is to show you what the biggest competitors are doing to win and the process that you can follow that could double or triple your closing rate. And I know that's a pretty big claim, but again, a lot of people have problems when it comes to working leads and follow-up and all these different things. And so hopefully this presentation will help you along your way as far as closing higher. So just a quick agenda. So first, we're going to talk about Morgan & Morgan, who is the largest personal injury firm in the country. He loves talking about that on all of his billboards. And I live in Florida, so I see all of his billboards every time I drive. Then we're going to talk about leads, and more leads. Not what you think. It's not anything in regards to generating leads. It's how you need to handle leads. Then we're going to talk about how can you compete, because the process that I'm going to show you can be overwhelming to see what Morgan's actually doing and what the big guys on the block are doing. So you're probably going to think, well, how can I accomplish this? So that's going to lead us into the infrastructure and tools that you need in order to actually compete at this level. And then we're going to talk very briefly about how to stop letting leads fall through the cracks, because this is a giant problem. And it's not even that it's necessarily your fault. It's just a lot of times when you set up your infrastructure, you don't necessarily think about harnessing all of your leads to the max potential. All right, so there are levels to the game, and I'm going to give you a business versus MMA example. So for those of you that don't know, I do jiu-jitsu. I've done a little bit of MMA here and there, kind of for fun. But when you do MMA, which is mixed martial arts, like you see the guys on TV fighting UFC, when you first start doing that, first you start getting punched in the face, and you're like, wow, this is not very fun. You don't really know much about that. Then when you get good at not getting punched in the face, then somebody takes you down, and then they punch you in the face on the ground. Now you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do on the ground? This is very difficult. And then what happens is they will choke you out or they'll try and break your arm. And now you have to worry about jujitsu. So there's a bunch of different levels to MMA, and you don't know what you don't know when you start MMA. So if you're a beginner and you get in there, you just get beat up for a year. It's because you don't know what you don't know. And you might think you are good at a certain level, and then you'll meet somebody that will just beat the tar out of you. And what this is there are levels to the game, and you may be very good, but there's always somebody that's better. And until you get beat up by that person in MMA, you don't know what you're capable of. And so you might think that you're doing enough when it comes to MMA training, but then you go train with a world-class fighter and they're training 8 hours a day when you were training 1. And the reason I'm telling you this is you may think that you're doing a lot in your firm, or you might not know what you don't know. And what I'm going to show you is the person who's playing at the highest level. So this is the world championship of pretty much sales and closing, and this is Morgan & Morgan. And so again, the reason for the analogy is to show you that until you see what they're doing, you have no clue what you're capable of, and you have no clue how much room you can actually optimize your process, which is always helpful to see. So this is always happens in the gym when you're fighting, and now I'm going to show you how it looks in business when you see what a high level player is doing. And so let's listen to the master. So there's a lot of noise out there. And what I tend to say is you don't want to take advice from people who are only a couple steps ahead, or they say they're ahead. You don't really know their numbers. There's no refuting what Morgan & Morgan has done. He's a giant player. He knows exactly what he's doing. And so what you should do is observe what the big boys are doing and just copy them. And so this is a process called funnel hacking. So the guy all the way to the right is Morgan & Morgan. If you don't know who that is, it's John Morgan. The guy on the left is Russell Brunson, and he came up with this concept called funnel hacking. It's not that he invented it. He just put a really cool name on it. And what funnel hacking is going through a company's sales process or online process and observing their process so that you can go back to your process and improve upon it once you go through their funnel or their sales process or their marketing process. So funnel hacking is very, very valuable because you can look at a company like Morgan & Morgan's, and he's already done a ton of heavy lifting for you. He's already tested tons of landing pages. He's tested a sales process. He's tested a follow-up process. So why are we going to reinvent the wheel when we can just go see what he's doing and implement that in our firm? Because we know he's the best. So why not do exactly what the best is doing? So that is why funnel hacking is very valuable. It can save you thousands and thousands and thousands, in his case, millions of dollars in testing, and you could just skip right to the front of the line. So again, we're going to funnel hack Morgan & Morgan's process. Now, before we do that, I just want to introduce you to our experience level and how I know the things that he's doing above and beyond showing you. So in our past lives, we used to help generate sales and optimize call centers. So this was like 6-7 years ago when we first started marketing, and we worked for a company called Protect My Car. They had a 300-seat call center. We worked for a company called Insurum. They had a 200-seat call center. We work for a company called AB Financial. They have 500 to 2,000 seat call centers, depending on when they're doing their insurance enrollment. So we have a lot of experience with call centers, and we've also got to peek inside a few billion-dollar call center / business operations, being Aetna, AAA, Heartland Financial. Those are pictures of Eric and myself outside those buildings before we went into their marketing and sales departments. So that's how I know how all these technology stacks work and exactly what Morgan is doing on his end to actually achieve the results that he's achieving when it comes to follow-up. So we're going to go into a quick live demo here of Morgan & Morgan. And if Morgan's seeing this and I get in trouble, I hope I can't. I didn't click on your ad, so don't get mad at me. I'm just going to click on your homepage, your organic listing. So I'm not costing you a bunch of money. So we're going to click on Morgan's homepage here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and say that we have a case right now. I've already filled this out. I'm not going to fill it out again because I don't want to bog down his system. I'm being considerate. All right. Morgan, don't get mad at me. So what happens when you fill this form out is he will begin a serious follow-up process. I'm going to show you what that process looks like in a second here. But what I want to point out to you guys is the privacy policy and the terms page. These are very, very important pages because if we go over here, we will see that he does all kinds of crazy marketing things. So he's going to use cookies. He's going to use pixels. He's going to use SDKs. He's going to have third-party analytics softwares on his website. So we're going to see that he's using something called Mouseflow, which is probably to track my movement on the website. He's going to use Google Analytics. He's going to use all kinds of things, probably postal retargeting, because he's talking about direct marketing here, newsletters, mail. So you can go through this and see a lot of the marketing things that he's doing. And then what he also does, and this is going to lead into the call follow-up, is he uses something called a dialer or an automatic dialing system. So this right here, the automatic telephone dialing system, is how he will call you so quickly. So when you go to morganandmorgan.com, when you fill this form out, he will call you within roughly 10 seconds. I've tested it a couple of times. Sometimes it's in a few seconds, 1 to 2 seconds. And how that process works, we used to do this at the call centers we worked at, is as soon as that form is submitted, it hits his CRM. That triggers a call in his dialing system to immediately dial that number. Now, as soon as the call gets picked up, it's connected to an agent in Morgan & Morgan's call center. So that whole process takes place behind the scenes within seconds, and you get a call within a few seconds. Now, why does he do that? It seems a little extreme, right? We've actually tested this when we worked at call centers. Whenever we would see closing rates drop in the call center, the first thing we would do is go to the website and test the form and see how long it took for them to call us. And generally it was under 5 seconds. And when that value started to climb above a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, the contact rate would drop tremendously, and so would the closing rate. And we would see this play out over thousands and thousands of leads a day. So you get very large sample sizes very quick. So the amount of time it takes you to actually get a lead and call that lead will directly correlate to your closing rate, which is why Morgan & Morgan has gone through such an extensive process to dial you immediately. He also will text you, and he will also email you immediately. So that is what funnel hacking looks like for a process like this. Now, what I did on my end is I recorded what he did for the next few weeks as far as reaching out to me. And what that looks like here is, I'll show you on the slides. This is all of his correspondence to me over the next couple of weeks. So I used a system called CallRail. This is the actual call log of Morgan calling me right here. You can see that he called me every day for 20 days. He called me every single day for 20 days. I put a tracking number in his system, so that way when he called me, I knew it was him. I didn't have to answer. But every single day. So you can see December 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, so on and so forth. Right? Alongside the calls, he actually texted me every day too. So that's already 40 communications in the course of 20 days. He also sent me an email every single day. So you can see here that his emails are actually pretty nice looking. He has some cool emojis in here. He has nice bold text, and he actually makes it to the inbox. So he's probably monitoring his open rate, his click rate, and he's making sure to get in the inbox, which I know that sounds like that should be pretty basic. It's actually hard to get in the inbox at scale because you start to get spam. People start to report you. They get irritated that you're calling them. They get irritated that you're texting them. And then all of a sudden they start reporting you and your rates start to drop. So he is really keeping up as far as his appearance online to get into the inbox, to not show up as spam likely, and to call this many times. So this is what the correspondence looks like, which again, this is a lot of communication. Now, why is he going through such an extensive process here? So he's obviously in the personal injury world, which is extremely competitive, but every single practice area is competitive. And he knows that he's spending money on billboards, he's spending money on TV, he's spending money on ads, and every single lead is very, very expensive. And so he needs to squeeze as much value out of each lead as possible, which is why he's following up so hard, because he knows the more he follows up with, the more people he's going to contact, and the more people he contacts, the more people he's going to close. And this is just his initial lead follow-up. So he is just doing this in the new lead stage, meaning that they haven't even talked to you yet. Once you talk to Morgan, which I haven't gone that far because I haven't been in a car accident, I didn't want to go too far down this rabbit hole and get in a car accident for you guys, but I just want to show you, this is the new lead stage. Now, if I had answered the phone and I had given him my case details and it turned out that I had a viable case, he would then follow up with me at the stage of consultation. And then he would follow up with me once he sent me paperwork. And then he would follow up with me once I've actually signed. And so there are multiple stages in the sales process. And there is no doubt that he follows up just as ruthlessly at every one of those stages, because you become more valuable as you move down the stage to the ultimate closing of the client. So he may actually follow up with a client 100 times from lead to actual closed and signed. That just shows you how intensely they are going after each client, because they know that if they don't do this, they're going to start to lose money. They're going to start to get more unprofitable. And so you're probably thinking to yourself, my gosh, this is insane. There's no way I could do this. Most of this stuff is automated. I'm actually going to walk you through the tools that you can use to do this type of communication and this type of follow-up. So this is just a slight tangent, because a lot of people always say, like, I need thousands of leads, or we can get you 1,000 leads per day, or you don't pay, right? You see these advertisements, I see them all the time. But what's important to understand is when you get this many leads, can you actually work this many leads through this type of process that I've just showed you? You don't necessarily want to get thousands of leads every single month unless you have the infrastructure and the personnel to work those leads. And just as a rule of thumb, when we were optimizing call centers, generally call center agents would get 20 to 30 leads a day. And then that's all they would get for the day as far as new leads. And the reason for that is day one, you get 20 leads. Day two, you get a new 20 leads, plus you have 20 of the leads from yesterday to work. Day three, you now have 40 leads in your pipeline, and you're working a new batch of 20 leads. And that starts to snowball very, very quickly. In a week's time, you've already got 100 leads, 50 of which may still be in your pipeline that you have to follow up on. Because again, Morgan follows up every single day. So it's important to understand that when you're looking at projections, or when you're looking at, I want to get to $3 million and I need this many leads, you have to make sure that you have the infrastructure to support that kind of operation, because a lot of people don't, and they don't know what it takes. And I'm going to show you on the technology side what it actually takes to facilitate this type of follow-up process. So these are some of the tools that you can use to compete at the same level as Morgan. So this is more for advanced law firms who have large budgets as far as like technology is concerned. This type of setup could cost you anywhere from like $250,000 a year up to $1 million a year, depending on how aggressive you are and how many agents you have. But the first thing that he uses is something called a dialer. And the biggest dialer in the industry, one that we've worked with a lot, is called Five9. And what Five9 does is it will actually do the automated dialing for you. So when someone submits that form, it gets put into Five9 and it triggers a phone call. And now what it's going to do every single day, depending on how you set up your Five9 dialing system, is it will call that lead every single day. Now, there's not somebody on the other end of that phone call until there's a connection, which is why automated dialers are so effective. They can dial through 1,000 leads in a few minutes because they only get connected when someone answers on the client side, and then it will connect them with an agent. So it is doing all of this dynamically. It's doing it very, very fast. And so you can dial through thousands and thousands of leads per day. And as a result, it's very hard to compete with this type of system. Now, the only drawback with this type of system is you have to have disclaimers in place. You have to be careful with do not call lists and things like that, because automated dialing systems are kind of frowned upon. People don't like them because nobody likes to be spammed, but they do a lot of advanced things. They'll swap numbers so people don't get used to the same number calling them. They'll do the automated part. So again, very, very effective. Now, how this ties into a CRM is generally what's on the other side of this is like a Salesforce or a HubSpot, a large enterprise level CRM. And the reason for this is all of the contacts will go into like Salesforce, for example. And what happens is when they hit Salesforce, they'll go to Five9 to trigger the call. That call is recorded in Salesforce. So everything is happening in one system. Salesforce will also send out a text message, and they'll also send out an email. And now the lead is being tracked inside Salesforce, which is the CRM, from the moment it's created all the way up until that person is closed. That way you can track the entire journey. And so what Morgan has done is he knows how many touch points you need to actually close people. He's seen the most effective times to call these people. And all of that is tracked in his CRM system, whether it's Salesforce or a custom CRM. And so that's why it's important to go and funnel hack your competitors. They've already done thousands and thousands of tests for you, and all you have to do is just go copy them. So again, Salesforce and Five9 are going to be very expensive implementations. They're generally customized, and you need experts working on these systems. So this is more for like an advanced law firm who has, agents working the phones. They have a call center dynamic, and they're really a larger operation. So let's just say that you're like, hey, look, I don't have $500,000 a year to spend on software. What can you do to compete if you're a smaller firm? So these are all systems that either our clients use or we use ourselves or I've used personally. And the first one is called PhoneBurner. So this is the equivalent of the dialing system. Now, the only drawback is this system is not automated. So when the lead comes in, it does not automatically get dialed. There are ways you could technically facilitate that, but this system is manual. Now, what's nice about PhoneBurner is what happens is all of your leads go into PhoneBurner, and you can choose a list of leads and it will dial through them for you very, very quickly. So it does the dialing. You don't have to punch in the number, which takes time. And then what happens is when you get connected with a caller, you can disposition the call, say this was a good lead, bad lead, and that can do different actions with PhoneBurner. And then if they don't answer, you can leave them an automated voicemail, one that's pre-recorded. So you're not leaving a voicemail for every single lead. You could do something like, hey, this is the law firm of whatever. I'm calling you about your matter. Please give us a call back at blah, 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 blah. So it expedites the dialing process and the voicemail process to a point where you can dial through 100 leads. I think their claim is like in an hour, which is very, very quick for 100 leads. If you were to do that on your phone, it could actually drive you crazy because I've done it before. So again, PhoneBurner is a great system. It's like $200 a month, very, very entry level, very, very cheap, but extremely effective. And it's, again, you're working your way up into the big leagues. Now, generally what you want to do with PhoneBurner is you want to attach it to a CRM, just like the Salesforce and Five9 dynamic. And Lawmatics, I think, is a great CRM in the legal industry. The reason I've chosen Lawmatics for this example is they are one of the only ones, I think, that does text messaging. So they will actually text and email your leads on an automated funnel, and you don't have to do that process by yourself, which can take a long time, or you don't have to send out individual campaigns. So for example, when I sent you the email that you guys got for this live webinar, I had to go and manually create that campaign and send it out. If I were to do that 40 times every day, it would be a time suck and it wouldn't be efficient when I could just automate the one-on-one email contacts to you guys. We also have our own system that we use. It's a white label CRM, which I'm going to show you in a few slides here. And that also facilitates text messaging and emails, which I like because, again, texting is a huge part of getting a hold of people, which is why Morgan does it. And again, it gets a much higher open rate than an email. So if you're looking to create a mini sales floor for your firm, this is the kind of stack you would want to be looking at. You'd want to be looking at like a dialing system. So you're not calling from the phone's number or the firm's number and you get labeled as spam because this will rotate numbers, and you can dial through leads very, very quickly because generally if you're a mid-sized firm, you're going to have a few hundred leads in your pipeline that you're going to need to contact. And so this system is going to really help facilitate that process. And Lawmatics, again, you get the automated texting, which no other legal CRM has at this point, to my knowledge, but they should be working on it because, again, it's very, very effective. I'm not getting paid by Lawmatics either. I just know a lot of our clients use them. So the next point that I'm going to bring you to, and this is where I'm going to show you what our system looks like so you can model your system after it, is stop letting leads fall through the cracks. So you need to have a CRM. It's almost what some people have referred to as table stakes, right? It's the bare minimum to actually sit at the table, and every single lead that you get, no matter where that lead comes from, needs to be entered into that CRM. And so you're probably wondering, well, how can I do this, right? First, you have to map out where all of your leads are coming from. So this could be your website, this could be your Facebook page, this could be your Google business profile, and this could be some listings or directories that go back to your website. So generally your website and your Google business profile are going to be where most of your leads are coming from. And now you need to deposit those leads into a system. And so for forms, when people fill out a form on your website, this is relatively easy to do with a program or an app called Zapier, which I'll show you in a few seconds here. And for phone calls, in order to track phone calls from Google Business Profile or your LSA account or your Google Ads account, we use a system called CallRail. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second here. So what Zapier does is they have this cool little graphic on their homepage, which is this right here. Pretty much how I like to view Zapier is like digital duct tape. It takes one system and it duct tapes it to another, and the information can flow between the two systems freely, which is nice because you don't have to do any custom development. So in this example here on Zapier's website, what happens is you get a new lead on Facebook. It sends a Slack message to the team. it puts it in a MailChimp email list, and then it puts it into Salesforce. And then it will actually have them send a DocuSign. So it can do all kinds of things. There's a ton of functionality here in Zapier. But the main point is whatever you're getting leads from, you want it to talk to Zapier, which then talks to your CRM. Now, this handles forms. What you're going to do for calls is you're going to use a system called CallRail. And what this does is it will create tracking numbers for you that forward to your firm's main number. And the tracking number is able to take the caller's information and put that into a system, just like we did with the forms on Facebook. So what happens is someone calls your Google business profile, it hits a tracking number on CallRail, the call goes through, whatever happens. And then what happens is Zapier will take that caller's information and put it into your CRM. And so now all of your leads are going into a system where you can keep track of all of them. And the reason that you want to keep track of all these leads is because if you're not looking at them on a daily basis, you're going to forget to follow up with people. It's just the way that business works, right? You have a million things going on in your firm. And if you're not actively looking at a to-do list, you're probably going to forget to do things. And so what our system looks like is this right here. This is what we give for our clients. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. It does a lot of the things that all the other CRMs do, which is why we like it. And it has the texting capability. And so what happens is whenever a lead comes in, we will put it into what's called a sales pipeline. And I've done a lot of videos on this. There are more detailed breakdowns. But what happens is all of the leads will go into this new lead column. So whether it's a phone call, whether it's a form, whether it's from Google Business Profile or LSA or the website or Google Ads or Facebook ads, all of the leads will go here and they're tagged appropriately. And now what happens is when you're a salesperson or you're an appointment setter or you're a receptionist, when they come into this view every day, they get to see all of the leads coming into the firm. And eventually what will happen is you'll start to mark leads as not qualified. So that's what this little lost thing means here. And so what you do is you clean this up every single day and you just go to your open opportunities, meaning people who are actually qualified to work with the firm, and it starts to trim the list down. And now it helps your salesperson prioritize their day, right? So I know that I need to follow up with these people because all of them are qualified to work with us. They're all, ready to do business, hopefully. And now I need to follow up with these people. So in the new lead stage, you're going through what Morgan & Morgan is doing. You're calling, emailing, texting. Once they move down the funnel, you're starting to do more personalized outreach. It's not automated at this step. It can be, but I generally prefer it to be manual. And you're calling Bruce Banner, you're calling Harry Potter, you're calling Steve Rogers, you're calling Tony Stark, and you're trying to get them to close. And so this is what the big firms are doing. They have dedicated salespeople. They have a very, very robust automated setup in the beginning to work all of their leads. And this is how you go to the next level. This is how you can close it double to triple the rate what you're doing now. Again, you don't have to start at the big leagues like Morgan. You can start with the phone burner setup, your Lawmatic setup, or a setup like this. And this will really, really help you close more because now all of your leads are in one place. You're facilitating follow-up through automation and you're keeping track of your leads. So leads are not falling through the cracks, which I guarantee you, if you don't have a CRM, that is happening to you. So again, this was more of a high-level overview of more advanced topics, which I don't do too often, but I thought it was interesting because Morgan calls me so much that I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a webinar on it. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you guys have more questions or you want to see more details behind this type of stuff, let me know. I'm more than happy to create these videos. They're a lot of fun. So I'll see you guys in the next one. And I appreciate your time.